We're now joined on the program by Emmanuel Osemeka, Country Director of Social Welfare Network Initiative, to shed more light on the out-of-school children dilemma happening across the country. You're welcome to News Across Nigeria.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Now, to the end, or to the effect that a 10.5 million children problem has morphed to 13.5 million, according to the United Nations. And we saw in that report of ours, where in Gombe State, children, the great outdoors is their classroom, the tree is the roof of their class. How much of a problem do you think infrastructure deficit contributes to that equation?
Okay, thank you very much. I think I want to really thank the reporter for doing such a yeoman's job, by highlighting, significantly the infrastructural deficit that is seen across the country, mostly in the northern part of Nigeria. A lot of emphasis we must also put in the war-torn, or should I say insurgency ravaged northeastern part of Nigeria, where you have the Gombe, Bauchi, Borno and Adamawa states. These states have lost, tremendous numbers of schools. It's more than 8,000 schools that have been destroyed and yet to be rebuilt. And the issues are not abating. So significantly, there is no one that can learn under such condition and be said to have good education. I do not understand how our leaders, our governors, our local government chairmen go to sleep daily when they see this kind of reports. It's sickening, it's saddening, and it is not something that we should, pray to have continuously. This has been going on for far too long. I remember vividly some months back, the Minister for Education came out with a figure, I think 16.1. Then, of course, the United Nations came up with 13.1 million. So the figures are staggering and they are scary. These children are they are waiting to be exploited by anybody if we don't do the right things. So when we look at the steps that were taken previously by some past government on the issue of Almajiri school system, I think that's also part of what the World Bank has also put as part of their environmental system safety assessment that was carried out sometime in 2017. It clearly defined some of the steps that must be taken, and it was more of a stakeholders engagement that gave birth to some of the recommendations, but I've not seen government implement any of them. And critically amongst them is talked about infrastructural deficits. They need to ensure that there is safety in lodging and, of course, the basic facilities that school needs. Talk about school structures, talk about the basic teaching skills for the teachers who are supposed to be teaching our children. So basically, I think we've failed in this third. I also fear that the sustainable development goals will also hit us on the negative this time around again.
When you talk about doing the right thing, to which you just alluded, and also the fact that once we put in perspective that the worst hit states are in the northern region with the insurgency and the aftermath, how can the government do the right thing with this problem staring them in the face? Families are in fear of their safety. The children are out of school because they don't want to get into trouble.
I think the key factors have actually been highlighted sometime in the past, and I'll just reiterate them again. I think the major challenge basically today is that, one, the children, for the IDP children specifically, the children needs to first be taken into consideration the fact that they need to overcome the challenge of fear. Okay? They need to overcome the challenge of the trauma they've gone through over the years. And you can't tell a child who was in school and his brothers or his sisters were abducted, or you talk about the issue of Bunyadi, where children were killed, burnt and all that. You talk about that particular challenge. We are yet to take care of those challenges. So that's top on the list. Then number two, we need to ensure adequate security and psychosocial support for children, particularly those in the Northeast. It's very, very important. Psychosocial support should be included as part of the curricula for the school children. So if we're talking about out of school children, we also must also talk about retention in schools. It's not enough to talk about heavy enrollments, but at the end of the day, we do not have the number the same number who enroll stay in school. So basically, these are key factors. Then we must also never overemphasize the fact that sensitization, amongst parents is critical, because a lot of parents are also pretty skeptical about, one, the safety, security, and of course the kinds of things they are taught, the children are taught, and all that. These also the Almajiri system. Majority of the states that were listed out there in this report clearly talked about majority of the states with the highest number of Almajiri children. So you're talking about, I say, 13.2 million children, and you listed about 9 states, and they have about 8-point-something million. So, and amongst these states, you don't have Borno State, you don't have Adamawa State there. So you're about 8 million. So the rest of these children, if you check critically, they are, on the other trunk of those other states. So
we also have to, sorry to interrupt you, we also have to recognize that Kaduna State, for instance, prioritizes education, and the other states do as well, but whether one state is succeeding enough with their policies in that regard is another matter entirely. But thank you so much for your thoughts on the issue, Mr. Emmanuel Osemeka, the Country Director of the Social Welfare Network Initiative, for coming on News Across Nigeria.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for watching. I'm Olumide Macaulay.